Hi, I'm Dave Emory. I am the Director of Sales for Trak Technology at B&R. And to me, automation is, well, it's not only a passion, but it's back to being disruptive. I'm excited about it because there's now a new creative aspect to what we can do, and that's via our Trak Technology. We've never been closer to the heart of machining and manufacturing than we are right now.
Hi, I'm Corey Dallas, and welcome to today's episode of This is Automation. Today we've got a very special guest with us, Dave Emory. Hey, Dave.
Hi, Corey.
So, Dave, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Will do. I am Dave Emory, as you mentioned, and I'm with B&R now in the capacity of Trak Technology. I've got the sales group for that, and I'm excited to say that as a culmination of so far 30 years in the automation space, that this is probably one of the more exciting times. I can, go back and liken it to back in the day when automation was brand new. Now it's just morphing into something very cool. So my current role, in that role, I am responsible for the Trak side of the business, and I'm excited that we're moving forward here in North America with it. I joined B&R here very recently, about 4 months, for the Trak reason. I'll say that the reason I'm here, outside of it being a wonderful organization, full of very, very smart people, but really what intrigued me was the Trak technology in general. I came from an automation company where we didn't have a Trak technology. I always kind of admired it from the outside, saw the benefit, and looking forward to implementing that.
You said you have 30 years of experience.
I do.
Just tell me a little bit about that. What kind of areas were you focusing in?
Sure.
On the motion control stuff? It seems like a natural transition to Trak.
Yeah, it was. It was originally, I'm an engineer out of school and got involved with automation early on. And primarily we were an automotive-focused organization 29 years ago. It was a good time to be in automotive, but yes, it was all about drive and motor, not even controls at that point. Okay. That progressed into my most recent job there with another automation company where we were a very controls-focused organization, very much involved with the IEC platform and development thereof, and the progression as to how those controls became more standardized and part of the everyday vernacular in automation.
So what made you make the jump to B&R? I know you said the Trak technology was cool. Was that the driving factor?
Yeah, that and the fact that the breadth of B&R. So the Trak technology was the main draw. I won't say any different. The breadth, though, that we bring as a corporation, from controls to I/O to motion and on through the litany is important, and it's intriguing because it's not something that a lot of automation companies are able to say.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, have you found it challenging? It sounds like the scope before was a little bit more broad. You had kind of a wider range of products that you were focused on, and now you've got ACOPOStrak and SuperTrak only. Is that a challenge for you, or
it really is? I mean, but it's a good one. I will tell you, there were more fish when you had more poles to throw. Right.
That's right. Yeah.
But I will say that these are challenging, yes, but fruitful in that what we bring to the table with Trak changes the way organizations will be doing business. There's no question in my mind that this is, and it's a bit cliche to say, but it is a business enabler, not a technology advancement.
Good. That's awesome. So we've already kind of teased it out. This episode is going to be about Trak Technology. So the last episode was with Derek Stacy, the product manager for Trak Technology here in North America. We talked a lot about the technology itself.
Yeah, he's the right guy for that.
He's the right guy for that, right? So I thought it would be good to focus this conversation more around the commercial side of things and what is really driving the businesses out there to adopt this technology and why they should even consider it. So just to kind of recap, if anybody didn't catch Derek's episode, can you give me, like the 30-second pitch on what is Trak Technology and kind of why is it important?
Right. So again, I'll say business enabler, right? I mean, I really believe that what we're bringing with Trak Technology expands our visibility into markets that we were traditionally not so much shut out of, but not as important in. And those would be the personal food and beverage for sure, a large expanding market. Pharma or personal medications, for instance, and then, of course, personal care, right? I mean, with one common theme there, personal, right? I mean, I think Trak brings the opportunities for flexibility for manufacturers, which then can equate ultimately into margins, right? I mean, if you're personalizing for somebody, you're getting more money generally. So I think that from a business enabling perspective, we're talking to different people. We still talk to controls engineers. Don't get me wrong. We still talk with engineering people, mechanical, but we're talking at the C-suite level about how their business might change and what things from an opportunity perspective that they're missing out on. So that in itself to me is really what separates the Trak discussions from automation components.
Okay. And when we say Trak, we're of course specifically talking about SuperTrak and ACOPOStrak, which are the two Trak technologies that B&R has.
Yes.
So if we break that down into really simple terms, you've got Trak and shuttles, right? And the shuttles, kind of move along that track. They're held on by only magnetic force. And so we can do some really cool things on the control side to, uniquely control each independent shuttle. And so that's what enables a lot of this personalization, right?
Very well said.
Okay, good.
Thank you for that. Derek would be proud of that.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Right.
So, I mean, from my perspective, if last episode we're focusing on kind of the engineering side, this is going to be more for the thought leaders in organizations. So engineering managers, executives, so on and so forth, people that are looking to drive this kind of change in their organizations, whether it's at the OEM level, the end user level, even system integrators are getting involved in this technology. So, when I talk to those kind of people, they usually have kind of a one-track mind, and no pun intended, but a one-track mind, and that track leads to cost. So, let's just jump right in and kind of talk about that. And what do you say when someone asks that hard question? How much does it cost? Because that is a hard question with these track systems.
Yeah, it's a hard question in every discussion. Buying a car, buying stuff. I mean, cost is a hard discussion. So it doesn't get any easier here, in that it is such a large, in most cases, scale jump when we're talking about Trak. But I think B&R brings a unique experience to this in that we can talk to Trak, about Trak in a system perspective. Yes, on a line item basis, you're going to see equipment being very expensive relative, right, to a more fixed pitch standard conveyance situation. But when we look at the opportunities, these are live, real opportunities, the opportunities we've had to look at them from a overall cost perspective, we have invariably found that the total cost to own Trak and implement Trak is less. Now, it varies in every application. Some applications have huge amounts of maintenance and downtime. Others don't, right? So those are different cost numbers there. Some have more fixed pitch and robotic implementations that sometimes go away. So those are costs that come out. Those are maintenance costs that come out. So what we're trying to do is put together a total cost model where between conversations with the customer, we can actually grow to learn that there are costs that can come out. But on a line item basis, it's expensive to look at Trak on a versus a fixed pitch.
Okay. So, it sounds like there's a good bit of effort up front, from the B&R side, and then also from the customer to kind of build the simulation. Tell me, is it really market differentiating enough where it makes sense to invest, this much time up front?
So I will say that you don't know what you don't know until we start to dig in. And I will honestly tell you that our customers have told us this. They didn't realize the opportunity because it wasn't knowable until we were able to, relate to them what Trak technology does. So that in itself differentiates every application. Every application of automation right out of the box. Also, there's some things within the B&R products and the ACOPOStrak, SuperTrak specifically, that bring, some capabilities, that being simply diverting, for instance. So I think those differentiate us. An IP69 product, 69K product, also, I would consider to be a differentiator.
Okay, good. So you mentioned kind of at the top of the episode that Trak you would consider it a business enabler.
Correct.
What does that mean?
So, if you have any interest if you have variability in your product or your process, if you have multiple changeover issues, tooling issues, then you're interested in Trak. If you move liquid or granulated product, we have a solution for that in that, the differentiator is an anti-sloshing algorithm that's built in, right? So that takes, in certain cases, some process out of your overall system.
Right.
So you're interested in Trak for that reason. And if you're tapped out mechanically, I mean, you just have chain and belt limitations. If you're there, then you're interested in Trak, as a differentiator. And then there's really elegant ways to do cleaning. With the Trak. I won't give too much of that away, but I will tell you that there's some really elegant ways to do changeover and cleaning that don't require a lot of manpower and or space. I like to think that those alone differentiate. Not to mention throughput, floor space savings, etc.
So our marketing content is a little bit full of some buzzwords from my perspective. So we've got ROI, OEE, business enabler, game changer, all this stuff. And, that's all great and true. But, moving past the buzzwords, what does the Trak system boil down to as far as why anyone out there should actually be implementing this? So try not to use the buzzwords.
So I was going to say, so you used all of them that I could, which is perfect because our documentation, as you mentioned, full of them.
Yep.
And I mean that what we're trying to do is quantify them, right?
Sure.
So ACOPOStrak, though, I guess my thought in answering that very simply is my ACOPOStrak, SuperTrak, ACOPOStrak, the real simplicity or the real important thing to remember is that it's a system, not an automation component. I think that in itself, kind of sums up the concept of, what the Trak is bringing.
Let's say that I'm an OEM or, for example, an end user. All this sounds interesting to me. You've done a really good job of engaging the market. So I've got some interest. What do I need to do to get started with Trak? What does that look like internally, and then also engaging with B&R, for example?
So I encourage anyone really to engage with B&R, even if you just want to learn about Trak, because like I've mentioned here a couple times, and I'll say it again, we've learned things on the way. Right, calling on OEMs and users alike for very, very different reasons, and we end up at Trak a lot of times because the pains are realized experience. So engage with the B&R people via call us up, look at our website, email us. We would love to talk about Trak with you. And get to a point where we can, start to talk about benefits and get to a simulation. We have some very solid experience, some successes that we would love to share as well.
And then, so like internally, it's great. Yeah, definitely engage the B&R team, right? But internally, like what should an OEM or end user be doing to kind of prepare for that conversation?
Well, that's good. So introspection is the word we've been using because it's, it kind of sounds really kind of important. But really what they need the users end up doing is almost going back to, what I studied in college, actually, and that's industrial engineering, in that we've, been asked, or the customers said, should we just go out and time study this? And the answer is yes. I mean, we would love to know at each of these important processes, what is the delay? Is there bottlenecks? And if so, why? And in a lot of cases, customers don't know. They're stuck with a fixed, moving, constant process. In some cases, merging into an intermittent process, which has all types of known issues, right? In terms of you can't stop the constant process and can't do anything about your fixed pitch on the intermittent process.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've been able to uncover that, and really that's with the customer going out and actually really dissecting their processes, and at the OEM level to kind of look at a machine design that they have in mind that wasn't possible. At one point, revisit those because they certainly may be now.
B&R is obviously not the only company out there that has Trak technology.
Right on.
I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. So, you've got Rockwell and Beckhoff, for example, just to name probably the most common ones in the market besides B&R. So what do you see in how the market is reacting to, the competitors? And then also, kind of the flip side of that, how is the market reacting to ACOPOStrak and how is that different?
Right. Great. So, I'm excited for any Trak win nowadays, just because we're at that point in this, in this market space. So I will say that, I'm excited about the successes, ours and theirs, of course, because we'll end up probably taking theirs anyway, if I may throw that in there. But we've learned a few things along the way, right? And it certainly hasn't been an easy process. So I think that ACOPOStrak specifically, you're bringing, when we're talking about food and beverage in the markets that I mentioned, I think IP69K is that is that really that opener.
Okay.
It's becoming kind of a, the de facto standard within anything pharma, anything personalized, even cosmetics. So at this point, the availability of shuttle IDs is another key feature when we're talking to the pharma world. Okay. Track and trace. I mean, I can get into those things that I'm sure you'll cover in your subsequent discussions. And then we're integrating vision, which is also very, very cool. It expedites a lot of these processes. Okay. And I'm really excited about the fact that we can offer alternative guides, right? I mean, that's a mechanical feature that for some reasons has come to the surface, and we've been able to say yes, right, to the mechanical guys who are typically driving the origination of a lot of these designs.
Mm-hmm. So you said an IP69K version is on the horizon?
That's correct. Very, 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 very soon.
What do we have now as far as the standard?
Product
I'm using air quotes right now.
Of course. Product right now is 65, and certainly adaptable to almost every environment other than the more stringent,
right, so
extreme.
Caustic washdown, basically high pressure, high temperature.
Correct.
Okay. So, I mean, typically, I guess those applications are really just food and bev, maybe on the pharma as well?
Definitely on the pharma now,
okay.
Because meds are generally treated the same as food and bev, in that there's restrictions around how often they have to be cleaned, etc. And the 69K brings something that makes that really a non-issue.
And then the other thing that you mentioned was vision coming out. So I guess what would be the use case for a B&R vision system integrated with the Trak versus maybe a competitor?
Right.
There's a lot of vision systems out there. So
there are, and integrating them with our own systems configuration is an obvious benefit. One of our larger competitors has been touting that for quite some time.
Okay.
Questionable whether they've been able to prove it or not, and I'll just say that and I guess it's fair for others to say that that's questionable on us as well. But I'm confident based on what I've seen that integration is tight, and that allows for some specific high-speed applications that we really couldn't have done third party.
Right. Yeah, and so the use case there is like with all B&R hardware, it's all programmed in Automation Studio. So the Trak, any auxiliary servo axes or anything like that, right? And then you have the machine vision also all on that one software, which has distinct advantages. And then also on the hardware and communications layer, they're all sitting on the same PowerLink network, right? And so PowerLink's really powerful in that it has this cross-node communication. So you've got the camera can identify something and kind of split second, like sub microsecond in a lot of cases react to that on a servo axis or on the Trak itself. So if you need to divert product very quickly, you're moving at 4 meters per second, you got to make these decisions quickly. So.
I wish I would have said it that way. Nicely done.
If you want to switch roles, that's fine with me. I'll be the new director of Trak Technologies.
I like it. It's, like I said, I'm totally stoked, excited.
Good. And then the other thing that you mentioned that I thought was interesting was the alternative guides. And I'm sure that we can't talk too much about it because you get into that application-specific NDA kind of area.
Definitely.
But I don't know. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like, when would you use that? Tell me a little bit about that.
You're right. I can't really speak too much in specifics, but I will say that there's, when you consider payload in this scenario, that there are better, and I'm using air quotes now, better ways to do some guides than others.
Okay.
And I think that becomes readily apparent during the discovery, for sure.
Okay. So I guess basically the ACOPOStrak has been optimized for a wide range of applications, but there's some ways that we can use the base technology that's there and then kind of, like you're saying, use these alternate guide rails and then expand even further beyond that.
Right. And I'll add just a little bit because it just dawned on me, though, the shuttles themselves, the material that we have for the wheels and the guides is kind of locked down in that we sell a version of it. But we have had some specific customers who say they have to have a different version of a polymer. And we've investigated that and in a case been able to change.
Okay. Good.
So we have some flexibility into that.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good to hear. So we already mentioned that there's a good bit of IP tied up in the ACOPOStrak. Obviously, we can't go into details about all of that stuff that's covered by patents and all sorts of things. But what can you tell me about the ACOPOStrak that is kind of special?
By the way, I'm fostering all of that whole IP thing because it adds to the mystique of Trak. And I want that. I want everybody to wonder what's going on behind the curtain. So, and I jokingly say that, but yes, we're very serious about it. There is a tremendous amount of IP in each of the applications we've had success. I shouldn't say in each of them. There's been IP issues in some of them. Others just roll out and we just go as standard product, right? It's very simple. But I will say that, what we're bringing there is, like, for instance, safe motion, right? I mean, some of that IP that is in safe motion is ours. But I will say we have the best simulation capabilities that I've seen, which allows us as a joint venture, if you will, with the customer to build in any specific IP that they would like.
Okay, good. Yeah. So you mentioned simulation a little bit ago, and you just mentioned it again. So it's obviously important. So let's take a few minutes and talk about simulation. So when we say simulation, what does that mean?
We have ongoing discussions over what that means. You'll hear virtual twin. Right out there quite a lot, and there's varying position on whether we as an organization and we as a industry have reached virtual twin yet. Most in our organizations feel like we're doing a process simulation, right? And for our purposes at the customer in general, it's what we need to do. It's their vision, our vision of their process communicated by them. So that's what I guess I would say is our focus on. It's a cornerstone of our process, as I mentioned. It's to the point where we're all driving to simulation on every application. There's possibly a day where we'll be selling Trak like a component, but it's going to be a ways because of the flexibility. And it's a ways away.
Gotcha. So when we have a simulation, the end goal of that is what?
So the end goal is to twin. Right? Therein lies the rub on whether it's virtual twin or not. But the idea is to get the customer to, we estimate 75% of the design process is done, a portion anyway. Right now, there's probably upstream and downstream that we would certainly help with, but at this point, that piece of the process or the process has been visualized and will run, and it's our controller's version of their process. So in these, we're often able to reduce the number of shuttles, maybe shrink the track, right? Offering up obviously cost reductions, floor space, etc., based on the models that we've been given. Right now, there's other times when those numbers are off and we have to correct, but that's as simple as our engineering guy getting back in the numbers and making those changes.
Yeah, and so I think that's a really powerful part of the simulation, especially with how different ACOPOStrak is than anything really on the market. It's hard for engineers, our own, and at the customer side to really be able to lay out a concept and know it's going to work. Right. So you have to prove that out in simulation because it's so different that you just can't know.
And in the old days, I would have shipped them a servo motor.
Right.
And they would have mounted it to that gearbox and we would have seen if it worked.
Exactly.
So this is pretty hard to do with obviously with Trak. We have some really good demos and some portable stuff that we would love to bring around, but it isn't the customer's process. Right. So this is as close as we could get.
Good.
And we find to be really good. Really telling.
Right. And then, the other side of that I think is really powerful is the simulation is built in Automation Studio. It's the machine code. So like you said, not only 75% of your design is done, but if that design works, 75% of your software development is done, which is super powerful.
Happy to see you smiling about that because I totally agree.
Yeah, no, that's really great. So we mentioned some of the competition earlier. Presumably, they're going to be catching up on some of this stuff. They're seeing what ACOPOStrak is doing, what it's enabling. Maybe as patents expire, for example, they're going to be able to implement some of the things that ACOPOStrak is market differentiating right now. So, how is B&R going to continue to differentiate and continue to innovate? And if there's anything that you can talk about that R&D is working on right now, what is that?
That's part of the rub too. There are so many things that I can't talk about. Like I said, I would look to the upcoming trade shows to see some of the things that we're kind of test driving right now.
So plug some of those trade shows. Where are you going to be able to see ACOPOStrak?
You'll see ACOPOStrak at PAC Expo, at IMTS, and especially at Interpack, the Dusseldorf-based packaging show. It's probably one of the best. There's going to be, double handfuls of Trak for sure.
Cool.
It's our goal to be on as many Trak at those shows as we can. And we're going to try to, bring some of this technology that we're talking about out then and do some test driving. Yeah.
Good. So,
and we're going to continue, by the way, to leverage the position that we already have, which is out in front of most, if not all, of our competitors in terms of just the implementation of the process and how we do it. The quality is phenomenal. And again, I'll pitch the, electromagnetic diverting. That is a feature in itself. Now, does it apply everywhere? No. But where it does, it's a game changer. Yeah.
That's a buzzword.
I know.
You just lost 5 points.
I should take the tick mark for that.
Yeah. Good. So is there anything that is in the works in R&D right now that you can kind of give a heads up on, or is all that tightly under wraps?
It's tightly under wraps. I will say we're going to continue to augment our simulation process, right? That is something I can tell you that that you'll see in the very, very, very near term. And just the way these Trak are implemented at the actual user customer base, we're going to make that simple and easy as well. Those will be short term. Longer term stuff I just really can't comment on right now.
Okay, good. Yeah,
it's
really creating this veil of mystery.
The mystique.
No, that's great. Yeah. And so in between these trade shows, if someone really wants to see this Trak, are there going to be any opportunities for that upcoming?
Yeah, wonderful question. So we here in North America in our Atlanta office have been gifted, if you will, some nice space, and we're filling it with Trak. So, in the June timeframe, so very near future, we'll have some Trak running there as well.
Good.
What I hope to do is make it external. We would love to have people here, and that's our ultimate goal, because once you get here, you see us, you understand the physical Trak. We can even change some of the Trak code, if you will, to more mimic what you're interested in as the OEM or as the customer base. But what I really hope to do is make it accessible via web. Right. Okay. Ideally, you'd be able to control it via the web. There's some safety issues that we're wrestling with there, of course. Yeah. But at least initially, there'll be a website. I want to have a video in there. I want to have a camera, and then we can have somebody here locally on site make the changes you request, and watch it run.
That's
pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, because they don't travel well, right? I mean, they're big, right? Yeah. But there's some subtleties to it. We hope to be able to, we will be able to kind of hone in on certain things, whether it's diverting, whether it's how we're integrating vision, whether it's the ACK and deck that we're capable of. I want to be able to demo all of those things so that they're not just words when our people are speaking with our customers, that they're demonstratable.
Okay, great.
It's very, very neat.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Do you have a timeline on the?
That will happen first week of June. We'll have operating equipment in there first week of June because we're hosting a PMMI. Here in Atlanta, and we're excited to do that, and they'll be privy to kind of seeing that stuff run.
Gotcha. And then for the remote access, is there a timeline for that?
I'm shooting for the winter time frame, mostly because we just don't have it. Really, we don't want to jump the gun and miss a few things, right? Of course. If we can go full implementation on what I want to do, then maybe it's sooner. Okay. If everybody agrees, but that's kind of the time frame.
Okay, gotcha. Very good. So, is there any advice that you can give the people listening right now that may be interested in this Trak technology? We talked about that a little bit earlier, what they can start doing internally, but here's your chance to...
Well, I would implore them to go out and see what's out there. Again, focus on B&R, of course, but there are, there's implementation of other Trak that are intriguing. We have found in the really recent past that customer found an application that we didn't do, but prompted them to go, well, what if we did that with your product, right? So I would encourage that you go out and just get educated, because there's some really neat stuff. Our YouTube channel would be the first place I would send them. Okay. Very, very, very innovative stuff out there. Some of which is patented, others, some of which is not. It's just, of course it's on YouTube, it's open, but there's some pretty neat applications out there. If you're at all an automation enthusiast, which you and I both are, then it's hours of wow. Yeah, is what I'm finding.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So it sounds like it's a positive thing for the market.
Definitely.
anytime there's a Trak win right now,
Definitely.
just because this technology is so new. So it's good anytime there's an early adopter kind of showing how this can be used.
Well, we're in a position right now in the industry where every is a strong word.
Yeah.
Most new applications are brand new.
Yeah,
Like they've not
exactly.
been done,
Yep.
right? So it's a very engineering fun time. Like the settlers, if you will, right? I mean, we're exploring some pretty new, different ways to do business. Super exciting.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Enjoyed the conversation.
Anybody wants to reach out, I am certainly available to speak about Trak and or B&R product in general.
Okay.
But I would appreciate any calls and come.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much, Dave. So in the future, we're going to be talking about more exciting topics like ACOPOStrak. We'll have a couple more episodes about that because it's such an exciting topic.
Awesome.
We've got web-based visualizations lined up next time. So we'll be talking about B&R's map view technology and then also the underlying HTML5, CSS, JavaScript, how that stuff works. We got a really great guest lined up there as well. Beyond that, we're going to be talking about IoT coming up next, machine learning, servos, PCs, CNC, a whole lot more. We've got some really exciting special episodes lined up as well. So I'm really excited about what's coming in the future. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. And if you enjoyed it, let us know by leaving a review on LinkedIn or on Apple Podcasts. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, have an idea for the show, or have a question, you can just pass that along to me on LinkedIn. Or, of course, you can reach out to me by email at automationpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks to the sponsor of the episode, B&R. Really appreciate their support for this project. In between episodes, like Dave mentioned earlier, if there's anything that you are interested in learning about, the B&R website is a great resource, as well as the B&R YouTube channel. So you can find that by just searching B&R through YouTube or from your favorite search engine. So thank you so much for listening to this episode of This is Automation, and we'll see you next time.